welcome everybody. Looks like we have another great crowd here in the Sourcepass universe. A lot of folks filing in. Looks like we've got another topic of interest to folks. So today we're going to be presenting Microsoft Outlook Beyond the Basics. And I love these Beyond the Basics webinars. I think they've really just hit such a sweet spot in terms of the knowledge gap that I think we all have. And, sometimes people think, oh, I've used Microsoft Outlook for a decade now or 2 decades. I know everything there possibly could be to know about Microsoft Outlook. And then we find out that's not true. So we're excited to be presenting these Beyond the Basics sessions to you guys, and hope you're getting something out of it too. So my name is Alan Bauman. I'm on the Sourcepass team. I am here with JoLynn Reen, and it's always good to be with JoLynn. She is a Microsoft Master Instructor, and we've been doing this for quite a while now. In the Sourcepass world, we've been doing this. I think this is our 5th month, so we're starting to build some momentum. One thing that I will ask you guys to do at the end of this session today, we have a couple quick poll questions we'd love to get your feedback on as we sort of chart the course of this learning series. We just want to make sure that we're hitting the mark. So if you could take 10 seconds, and I'll give you a little bit of an update at the end of the session to talk you through that, but it'll literally take just a couple seconds to do that. So happy to be here with JoLynn, and I'm going to let her kind of run the show here in a second. A couple housekeeping items. As you guys all know, if you've been here before, we're really focused in this learning series on helping the Sourcepass community use the tools that you probably already have. So we've done a lot of sessions on 365. We've done a few of these Beyond the Basics sessions. They're open to anybody who is a Sourcepass client. So if you have a colleague who you think might be able to take advantage of this, please share the webinar info with them. We'd love to get more of the Sourcepass community involved in these sessions. Right now, we have a monthly cadence for these learning series sessions, and you can register at sourcepass.com for any of the upcoming sessions. We also have a digital transformation series of webinars, which have a bit of a different focus. As I mentioned, these are more helping you with your day-to-day kind of work. Digital transformation topics there are really more about how to do things with technology that maybe you haven't done before, or trends in technology, or things that are really sort of important at a strategic level. So different topics, but you are absolutely welcome to register for those as well. Those are also on our website. And if you can flip the page, JoLynn, I think.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So really just super quick, if you do have questions, and so far we've been able to answer all of the questions in all of these webinars during the time frame allotted. So if you have a question, just submit it in the Q&A button. We'll get to them as we can. If we have extra questions, we'll stay late after the end of the webinar if need be to make sure that we get those answered for you. And lastly, and you guys know this if you've been here before, so we send out a survey that comes out in the next day or so. And if you could take a moment and give us a little feedback there, that would be great. And I think that's all I have at this point, and I'm going to turn this over to JoLynn. Over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Alan. So welcome everybody, as Alan said, to our Microsoft Outlook Beyond the Basics. So let me go ahead and share my Outlook screen with you. And if you downloaded the handout that's available, we can kind of go through some different, really kind of the features that I feel are things that I use personally on a regular basis, but a lot of people aren't aware of taking advantage of some of these efficiencies that we have built into Outlook. So of course, Outlook is this application that we generally are in all day long. And I wanted to kind of point out first that there's a lot of different ways to actually be looking at your Outlook. And some are going to have different benefits over other things. So no matter what program that you're in, if you want to change the way that you're looking at things, you can always go to the View tab. Now, just so that you know, I'm actually using the desktop version of Microsoft Outlook today. And if I go to the View tab of the ribbon, you can see that there's several different choices as far as the commands are that you see going across the top. I have my inbox set up to be with the reading pane. The reading pane actually has a lot of advantages. And when the reading pane was first introduced, it didn't have the built-in security measures that I think everybody was hoping it did, but it does today. And what I mean by those security measures is if you click on a message that was a new message, as soon as you clicked on it, when you had the reading pane turned on, it would automatically mark the message as being read. And of course, that could trigger some things to happen in the background that we don't always want to have happen. So with the reading pane as of today, June of 2024, we don't have to worry about that. Because when you select a message that is a new message, it does not mark it as being a read message until you actually leave the message. So just so you know, if you click on a message and you realize, I didn't mean to click on that, I don't know who this is from, if you want to just get rid of it, you can delete it right from there. So we don't have to worry about those security measures with the reading pane. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit more on the benefits of using the reading pane, but when it comes to this view tab of the ribbon, you can see that in the layout group, if I did not have the reading pane turned on, I can turn it on and turn it off by going to the reading pane in the layout group. I'm going to click off right now. So this is actually the default view that you would get. And you can have a different view for every folder in your inbox, or I should say in your mailbox folder. Each folder can be different. So sometimes I want the reading pane, sometimes I don't. So this default view that you get is actually giving you columns and rows of information. And as you can see, you can have a lot of different columns displayed. So if that would be beneficial to you to be able to see that those additional properties to an email, this would be a great view for you because it's individually showing you importance level, reminders, your response, whether you replied or not. It has columns going on the right-hand side for the file size, the actual email size, categories, at mentions, a lot of different things can be displayed. As a matter of fact, this is actually very customizable as well. That's for a whole nother day, but sometimes I like this view because what if I wanted to actually sort by one of these views that I don't necessarily see when I'm in the reading pane, like the size as an example. I could simply go to the column header for size, click on it, and it automatically sorts my messages largest to smallest or smallest to largest for every time that I click on it. So just so you can see, this can be beneficial in that regards. But if you want to read a message from this view, you would have to double click on it to read it. I personally don't care to do that. I like the reading pane the best for my mailbox called inbox. So for my incoming messages. So I'm going to go back to the layout. I'm going to click reading pane and I'm going to turn on write because I want to be able to take advantage of the features that we have. Let me mention a couple of those benefits. So one of them is going to be the fact that when you are looking at so technically you have your menu bar on the left-hand side, then you have your folder navigation, then you're going to have a pane to the window that shows you your list of messages. So right now I'm looking at my list of messages, and whichever message I happen to be clicked on, it shows me the contents of it on the right-hand side. So one of the benefits is going to be the fact that when you look at the right-hand side of the reading pane, it's reading your message. So let me show you an example of a little bit on this. So let's say that I actually go to an email that you can see that this message from NIAC is unread. We know it's unread because it's bold and it has this dark blue bar on the left-hand side. If I click on that message, it shows me the contents of the message on the right-hand side, but it didn't mark the message as being read. So if I realize, I don't really need this message, I could simply hesitate on the message itself and click the delete icon. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do that on that message. So just so you can see, that's what it does by default. So you can mark a message as being unread multiple ways. So I don't know about you, but when a message comes in, sometimes I have like 50 messages. I could be off to a meeting, I come back to my computer, I have a bunch of messages, and they're all marked as unread. Well, I should say, by default, they're marked as unread. If I read a message, so I click on a message, I read it, and I realize I want to come back to that message a little bit later, I have the capability of going back to a message and marking it as being unread. You have at least 3 different ways to do that. But the easiest way in the reading pane is to go to the message, and you don't even have to be clicked on it. Hesitate on the message itself. Go to the left-hand side where you get that blue bar, click it, and it marks it as unread again. So that is a quick, easy way to mark a message as unread. So that way it stands out to you so you can come back to it. But something else that I wanted to mention, and by the way, I'm still sorted by size. If you look at the top of this pane of the list of my emails, you can see it says by size. So this is actually a sorting capability that we have based on different properties within your email. By default, it's organized by date. So I'm going to actually put mine back to being by date because that's what you typically would be using, just so you know. But when you are selecting on specific messages, you may end up having on the right-hand side of the screen, I was just going to say, I know I have a message that I recently had that gave me, well, for some reason, I'm not seeing one right at this moment, but when you have a message that comes into you on the right-hand side, you can actually get automatic responses, which can include things like, thank you, I appreciate your time. All kinds of things can be brought up on the right-hand side for you to automatically respond back. I had an email that I had that I was going to show you with that example, but right now I'm not actually seeing one, but that's okay. Just so you realize that you can get those automatic responses, which is very similar to what you get when you are using social media, where you can do a quick response that says, thank you for the information and things like that. But it doesn't automatically send the message. It allows you to still edit the message. And one of my favorite parts of using the reading pane is the fact that we can actually respond by going straight to the reading pane on the right-hand side. So of course you're going to get your reply all and forward, but you get a lot more than that. If I happen to click reply, of course, that's going to reply to the person that you sent it to. It will give you a different tab on the ribbon related to the most common things that you would do when you are responding to a message. So if I'm looking at these icons going across and I realize I want something more than that, I can go to the top right, and if I change my mind on responding, I could click discard, or I can click pop out. Pop out is going to bring the message into a full window where you will have access to every feature available. I want to point out some of these features that you may not be aware of that I use on a very regular basis. And one of those is going to be on the Insert tab of the ribbon. I have some information that I use on a regular basis. So I want to be able to insert that information whenever I need it. I don't want to have to go back to a previous message and find that data. It can be text and or images. So let's say that I always want to repeat this text. I'm just going to select some existing text. If you have information like a closing statement or anything that you want to repeat in your emails, you can select existing text and create a quick part. by going to the Insert tab of the ribbon. In the text group on the right-hand side, if you click Quick Parts, it will allow you to save the selected text to a gallery. So I selected text that I want to use in multiple messages. I'm going to click Save Selection to Quick Parts Gallery. I can give it a name like closing statement or whatever I might want to call it so that I know what it is. And then I just simply click OK. If I want to repeat that information, all I have to do is be in a new message, a reply or a forward of a message, be in this full window, go back to the Insert tab, and then click Quick Parts. It automatically stores what I had just saved. So if I want to reuse it, I click on it and it automatically inserts that block of data that I had saved. Love that feature. It is such a time saver. So that is something that I use on a very regular basis, and it is available in not only your mailbox, but it's also available in Calendar, etc. So it's available in other parts of Outlook as well. So that's one of the features I wanted to mention when you're in the full window. The other option that I want to talk about is actually on the Options tab of the ribbon, and that's delaying the delivery of a message. So from the Options tab, I can click on the icon Delay Delivery. But by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in the updated version of Microsoft Outlook, if you go to send a message to somebody that's a part of your domain, and the domain knows that they are not on their computer right now, it will actually prompt you to say, this person is unavailable until 8 o'clock or whatever the time frame is on their calendar, and it will ask you if you wanted to delay the delivery of that message. So you wouldn't even have to come in here. You can actually see that right in the information area at the top of the message. So if you try and send it when it's outside of their normal working hours, that's what it's going to give you. That's a great feature. But how does it work? What it does is you can actually choose to not deliver the message until a specific date and time. This has been around for a long time, but there has been some changes to this. You do not need to leave your Outlook open anymore because of the cloud-based situation that we are in these days. We used to have to leave Outlook open for it to automatically send, but we don't need to anymore. So you can choose the date you want the message to be sent, choose the time you want the message to be sent to them, even if it's after hours, like 1:30 in the morning. And as soon as you're done, you just close that properties dialog box. And when you're done composing the message, just click send like you normally would. It's going to sit in your outbox. So here's my outbox showing that message that it's going to stay there till that date and time. Then it's going to automatically send it. So think about taking advantage of these tools that Outlook has built in that can really help you in managing your messages. Now, speaking of managing your messages, what if I'm in my inbox and I received an email message that I actually want to share with people in Microsoft Teams? I have the ability to be able to do that by simply selecting the message from my sent items, my inbox, wherever it's stored, and I can go to the Home tab of the ribbon. This is one way, and click on Share to Teams. I also can go to the reading pane. On the right-hand side in the reading pane, you get your reply, your forward, those types of things, but you're also going to see this Teams icon. If you click on the Teams icon, you can click Share to Teams, but you could also send a chat to the person directly from there. So if you're reading a message and you want to chat with them, this would be one of multiple ways that you could start a chat or continue a chat with someone through Teams. You also have the ability of scheduling a meeting with that person directly here from this drop down, but I'll show you that in another fashion. I'm going to click Share to Teams, and what it's going to do then is ask me which one of the teams that I have do I want to share this to? Where do I want to put it? It will put it in the Post tab of the channel that I choose. So I just chose my accounting department team, my accounts payable channel. I'm going to click share. It automatically has now put that in Microsoft Teams in that channel's post tab. So that's a great feature that we can do. But another option when it comes to your message, you know how it is when you have a conversation kind of going back and forth with people and you decide, you know what, we really should just do a meeting to discuss this instead of trying to resolve this by emailing. You have different ways that you can actually start a meeting directly from the message you are clicked on. So click on a message. If you want to turn it into a meeting, all you have to do is go to the respond group on the home tab of the ribbon, click on the icon, reply with meeting. You can also do that on the reading pane on the right-hand side by clicking on the ... and click meeting. So a couple of different ways to do the same thing. Basically, what it's going to do is automatically start a new a new appointment, inviting everybody that was a part of that message, invites them to the meeting. You could, of course, make some changes to it. It includes the body of the email as part of the appointment. When you make your changes as to the date, the time, etc., you can just simply send it. So this has been such a huge time saver for me. It's something that I use on a very regular basis because a lot of times, you know, this emailing back and forth isn't enough. We really want to take advantage of other features. Another option that we have when it comes to managing emails, at the bottom of page 3, top of page 4 of a handout, you can see that we can have conversations going back and forth with our coworkers or external customers or vendors and different people. So let's say that I send out an email and people reply to it. Then I reply, then they reply. Those are basically called a conversation in Outlook. And we can end up with a lot of redundant messages based on that same conversation. One of my favorite features within Outlook is actually a way to clean up the redundant messages. So if I have an email that I know we've been going back and forth all day or for a couple of days on that same conversation, I can click on any message that is a part of the conversation and go to the home tab of the ribbon. In the delete group, click cleanup. From there, you can click cleanup conversation. It's going to look for any redundant messages related to that conversation of that message you were on. So I'm going to click cleanup. It would automatically send the redundant messages to the deleted items folder and only keep the most recent, because the most recent has all of the history of the conversation itself. But sometimes it might come back and say there isn't anything to clean up. And that can be because the conversation string got broke. So we forwarded the message off to somebody else, that breaks the string. Or we delete part of it. There's a lot of different things that can break the string of that conversation. But if this is a feature you have not been using, highly recommend using it. To me, it is a feature that I can't live without. It just makes it so much easier to manage getting rid of things that I don't need. And speaking of getting rid of things that you don't need, I right now have been saving messages just for classes like this, because if you look at my deleted items folder on the left-hand side, you can see that it says 122. That is related only to unread messages that are in my deleted items. So there's 122 messages in my deleted that I never even read. I just deleted them instead, because I can delete a message without even clicking on it. So if I see that a message came in from a specific person or company, and I know I don't want to read it, I can simply hesitate on the message. And another reason I use the reading pane is I can see a flag. I can see that I replied to the message if there's a arrow, eggplant color arrow. Also, I get the delete icon. So I don't even have to be on an email. I can click delete on it and delete out a message. Now, of course, you know that they all go to the deleted items folder. But I have a habit of cleaning up multiple messages towards the end of my day. It's kind of my habit in using Outlook, where I'll look back at my messages from the day and I either move them to a folder if I need to save them, or if I know I want to get rid of them, I'm going to select them and delete them. But I don't always just delete them and send them to the deleted items folder. So first, I use a couple of keyboard shortcuts to select my messages. So if I have a string of messages that I no longer need, I can be selecting those messages by using my Shift or my Control key. The Shift key, you click on the first one, hold your Shift key down, click on the last one, and it will select everything in between. Or you can use your Control key to select random messages. Once you have those messages selected, I don't just delete them. If I know I never need to see them again, I would do a Shift delete, because Shift delete is going to ask you or warn you, this will permanently delete them. So you don't have to delete things twice. So I use this all the time, because why do I want to manage something twice? Save yourself some time and some headaches and let the computer do that for you. So if I say yes, those messages are going to be gone. They're not in my deleted. But did you know that you can actually empty your deleted items folder at any time? And sometimes I do it a couple of times a day, because for me, if I'm accumulating a lot of deleted items, I don't like to keep them. So if I click my folder on the left for deleted items, notice my status bar down at the bottom left. It tells me I have 1,397 messages in my deleted. I'm seriously hoping that none of you have that many, but I have 122 that are unread that I deleted and I never even read them. As you can see, I have all these that are still bold. If I want to get rid of all of these messages at once, I can right-click on the deleted items folder itself and left-click on empty folder. That will get rid of everything in that folder. But just so you know, there are options that you can actually set it up so that it will automatically delete anything that is 30 days old, 90 days old. Those types of settings can also happen within your options, or you can set it up so that every time you close Outlook, it automatically empties the deleted items folder. So just keep in mind that you do, of course, get multiple ways to help you manage those messages, but make sure you are cleaning those out, because we delete them for a reason. It's not a place to store messages. Use folders instead. So make sure you keep things cleaned up so you don't have to worry about them. And kind of back to the conversation about having some automation. Let's say that every time I need to create an email that is going to have the same content, maybe a little bit different, and it's going to go to the same group of people. An example of this would be, I manage a lot of projects, and I send out every Friday an email asking all the resources to send me an update on the tasks they've been working on. And I have the same block of data every time, and it goes to the same group of people. I just change the dates and a few things. Well, what I used to do was go back to my previous message. So I would have to go back to sent and search for the last one. Then I would change things and then send it again. Well, of course, one time I forgot to take old things out, and somebody messaged me right away and said, "Hey, Jolynn, you forgot to delete out some of the old information." So I decided I needed an easier way. And the way that I do it now is by using what is called quick steps. There's this quick steps gallery of choices that it can perform different actions automatically for you. I'm going to set up a quick step for an email that I call status update because I send it out regularly. So I'm going to go to the bottom right, click on the dialog box launcher for the quick steps group. In this manage quick steps, I'm going to go to the one called team email. On the left-hand side, these are templates that it comes with. On the right-hand side, you can see the details of the actual template. I'm going to actually duplicate it. I don't want to override the original. I want to make a copy of it basically. So I'm going to click duplicate. It at the top is going to have me give it a name, and I'm going to name this status. Oops, I have to type that correctly. Status update. And then under the actions, it will create a new message every time I click on the icon. Under the to, I could actually be putting in who do I want this message to go to every time I send it out. So I can add in everybody that is included. I can still change it before it physically gets sent. So I'll just put one person in there for right now. Then I'm going to click show options so that I could put in what is the subject. So I'm going to say the subject is weekly status updates. And in the text box is where I could copy and paste and put the text, or I can physically type it. So please send your updates, and I would put in whatever I want for the block of data that I want to have every time. When I'm done, all I have to do is click finish. You can see that that is now located on the left-hand side. It's called status update right here. I'm going to click OK. Every time I want to use that as a new message, I just go to the quick steps gallery of choices, click on the icon status update, and it will give me a brand new message with everything that I had filled out. This to me has been such a time saver. I can still edit, add more people to it or whatever, make my changes and then click send. But this to me is huge because I have a lot of things that I do regularly, and this is a great way to have that. Now, I'm just going to close that without sending it, but quick steps can be to forward a message. It can be to move a message to a specific location. Check out what all the different options are for the actions when you create a quick step to see other information about it. So it's actually a very cool feature. So if you have not used that, highly recommend you start using that. So two things I'm highly recommending so far, the cleanup conversation and the quick steps. Those are things that I use all the time. Well, I use the delayed delivery a lot too, and the quick parts. So lots of different things that we can be using to help save time. And another option that I wanted to mention is flagging a message. If you have an email that you want to come back to and make sure that you follow up on it, like let's say I want to follow up on it tomorrow. I can go to any of my messages, no matter which folder they're in, and we can flag a message. Here in the reading pane, I could just simply highlight, hesitate on the message, and I get this little flag icon. But I don't just click the icon. I want to right click on it because from the right click, I can choose what type of a flag do I want. And for me, I want a reminder. So I get a pop-up window that's going to remind me when to follow up on it. So I'm going to click add reminder. I'm going to say that I want to be reminded tomorrow, and I want to be reminded at 9 a.m. I can choose the date and the time that I want to be reminded. Then I click OK. It is now going to highlight that message, and it has a red flag and a reminder bell. So that reminder window will pop up on that date and time. But just so you know, this is not the only place I can see my flagged messages. If you go to the to-do category on the left-hand side of your navigation on the left-hand side, once you come into to-do, this is your personal to-do list where you can keep track of the tasks that you need to do. There is a category here called flagged email. If I go to that flagged email, it will show me any of my messages that I have flagged. If I want to go back to one, I can actually go to that flag. I could mark it as I've completed it. I have other details also on the right-hand side when I select that flagged item. So on the right-hand side, I could change the reminder, I could change the due date, I could have a category for it, I could actually change notes for it, whatever the case would be. I have easy access to it directly here from To Do. To Do is its own app in Microsoft 365. You can also access your to-dos by going to Teams. So to-dos are available in Teams and in Outlook, or available on their own as a single app. So to me, it's a can't live without type of an application. But I just wanted to show you the flagged feature for right now. So if you have something that you need to follow up on, highly recommend using flags. Okay, great way to make sure you don't miss anything. Other things that I wanted to mention with you is Outlook rules. Rules are a way that we can have a message be managed by setting up an automatic rule. You can create rules from multiple places, but let me do a brief example for you. Let's say that I'm selected on a message from a specific person, and every time I get an email from that person, I want it to go to a special folder. I could select an email from that person, and I could go to the Move group on the Home tab of the ribbon and click Rules. And I could choose always move messages from that person, and it would give me a choice of what folder do I want it to go to. That would be one very simple rule. But we also have other types of rules that we can create that have a lot more action to them. If you go to your File menu and click on, excuse me, click on Manage Rules and Alerts, that will open up a dialog box where you could select New Rule. This will walk you through a wizard to set up a rule that can analyze an email when you receive it. So you have stay organized options, stay up to date, or start from a blank rule. These are kind of like mini templates that can help you fill out the rule. So I'm going to say that I want to move messages from a specific person. Down at the bottom on step number 2, I need to choose who is the person. So I'm going to say student 1 is the person, and what folder do I want to move this message to? I can choose the folder name that I want my messages to go to, or create a new one. Then in the wizard, I'll click Next, because we can follow through with what conditions do we want it to check when we receive the message. It's not just based on who it was from. It can be based on it had a specific word in the subject, it had a specific account that it was sent from, it had specific words in the body of the message, etc. You can set up whatever actions you need it to be. When you're done, you click Next. Then you can actually answer the question of what do you want to do with the message? You can move it to a specific folder, but what if you also wanted to make a copy of it into another folder? You want to clear a flag. You want to play a sound. You want it to be printed. You can choose what you physically want it to do with that message. It doesn't have to move it to a folder. It can do other actions instead. But as you go through each of the steps, you can be setting up exceptions. So I could say if it's this person, but if it has this, if it's marked as high importance, don't move it, or any other exceptions that you want to choose. Then you click Next. You can give the rule a name and then click Finish. Anytime you receive a new message from that person, it will automatically apply this rule. So once I click Finish, I can see the rule in my rules list. If I wanted to change it or delete it, I can do that right from this menu. To change it, we just click Change Rule. or delete it or make a copy of it, we can use those tools from here as well. I'm just simply going to click delete and click yes. And then I'm going to click OK on my rules window. So rules are a great way to help you automate processes as you are working in Microsoft Outlook. Okay. Now we also, of course, have our calendar, and we've already seen how we can take an email and turn it into a meeting. But I want to talk a little bit more about some shortcuts with calendars, because a lot of times for me, I'm going to have duplicate meetings, but they're not a reoccurrence where you could be setting things up as a reoccurrence. If you want to view multiple days at one time, you could change your view up at the ribbon to days. Then you can select the days that you want to view side by side of each other. They can be totally random days, but you can see that it automatically will display whatever you choose by using your control key on the left-hand side to select those dates. Once you have something created, like let's say that I want to create a meeting on Monday, the 15th at 9 a.m. I can go to 9 a.m., right click and choose what do I want it to be. Because do I want it to be an appointment? Do I want it to be a reoccurring appointment? Do I want it to be an event? Do I want it to be a meeting? You can start with exactly what you want by right clicking. So let's say that it's going to be a new meeting. Well, I'll say it's going to be a new appointment. Once I fill out the appointment, I'm going to click save. Of course, I'd put more detail or whatever. If you have something on your calendar that you also want on different days, you could simply select the message, or I should say, select the appointment, use your control key. So hold your control key down, click and drag that from one day to the next, and you can even move it to a different time. So if on one day it's at 9, but the next day it's at 12:30, the next time it's going to be at 8:30, I can use my control key to copy things from one day to another. So by viewing them side by side of each other, it makes it super easy to duplicate them, to copy them back and forth. So pretty great feature. But also when it comes to working in your calendar, something else that I feel is important to understand is what if you want to have a calendar that you're going to share with one of your coworkers, or maybe two. You don't have a group, you don't have a team set up for that specific group of people you want to share the calendar with. You technically can create as many calendars in Outlook as you want, simply by going to the folder tab when you are in the calendar. From here, from the folder tab, you can click new calendar. That's one way of doing it. And then give the calendar a name. So maybe this is going to be related to invoicing, and I want to share this with my coworker that does accounts payable. I'm going to click OK. So now I have this new calendar on the left-hand side called invoicing. If I want to share this with my coworker, I can right-click on it, go into my sharing permissions, and I could click add to add that person that I want to share it with, or multiple people. And then I can choose the permission levels that I want to give them. Do I want them to be able to edit? Do I want them to only be able to view what the title is or the location? Once you give them the appropriate permissions, click OK. They will now be able to open that calendar and work on that calendar with you. So it's not just about opening a coworker's calendar. We can have different permissions on the different calendars as well, which is a great feature to be able to have. So that's all I was going to cover so far with calendar. I want to really kind of go back and talk about email for a second. And one of the features I want to do with an email is, what if you receive an email from a new customer or a new vendor or somebody that's new? Typically, you're going to create a new email, and if you've already emailed them before, all you have to do is start typing their name, and it's going to automatically show up in the list. But did you know that you can actually lose that list? And they could end up going to your spam or your junk folder. To make sure that they are never seen as junk, and to make sure that you will always have their email address and other contact information, what you really should be doing is saving them as a contact. I can take an existing email, and if I have someone's contact information that I want to populate within contacts, like if they have a signature within the email, that information can be used to create their contact card. So I'm going to take an email, drag it to the people icon on the left-hand side. I release my mouse and it's going to automatically insert the body of the message into the notes area. It took the name of the person and their email address and added it to the appropriate fields. If they have a signature within the contents of that email, I can go to that signature, select the text, drag it to the physical field where I want it to go. So instead of you having to fill things out, you can just simply click and drag, select it, drag it to the field you want it to be placed in. I personally love being able to do this, so I like seeing people's signatures so that we have those to fill out. If I don't want the rest of the contents in the notes area, I can simply select it. I just did a Control-A to select all. I can delete it out and not keep it. But I don't know about you guys, but for me, I keep different notes about my contacts in here, especially if it's from a vendor. This vendor is very flexible on their pricing. This vendor also sells these products. You know, whatever information it is that you need to store about them, you can be putting in the notes. Now, of course, once you're done, you just save and close, and that will be available all the time for you through your Outlook contacts. So now we don't have to worry about losing that contact information or that person ending up going to spam or to your junk mail, because Microsoft sees everybody that's in your contacts as being a safe sender. So it's recommended to do that. Plus, if you are using Outlook Mobile or you're logging in on your online account on a tablet or whatever, these are synced to be available wherever you are. So if I go to my Outlook on my phone, I have my contacts, which technically syncs to my car as well. So I have everything anywhere I need it. So I just really recommend people doing that. I don't think enough people use the people/contacts in Outlook as much as we used to, but it is still highly recommended to use it. I use it all the time because I don't want to lose something. Plus, I don't want to have to go back and search for an email to find their phone number or their mailing address and things like that. Plus, it has some other background information in there that we can actually be using for things like mail merges and other kind of contact management related information. People is actually a very powerful tool. It even has custom fields that can be added into it. That's something that I personally have been using since Outlook came out. They've always had these custom fields that we can be using. Whole nother day on getting into topics like that. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is your properties in the background. So we have a lot of things that are happening by default in Outlook. And anytime it's a default, it's something that can be changed. If you go to your File menu at the top left, on the bottom left of your screen, click Options. This will take you into the Options dialog box for Outlook, where you will see the default options where you could actually make changes to them. There's different categories on the left. Whatever you click on from the left shows you the contents on the right. One of the things to double check always is on the mail category, make sure that always check your spelling is selected. There was a time period where Microsoft didn't have that as a default. It is now, but just so you can see, you can come into your spelling and your autocorrect features. You even have access to your signatures from here. So lots of different choices, even cleaning up your conversations. As I scroll down, there's a lot of different tracking options, etc. But the calendar is an important part of the properties because not everybody works 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. That is what the calendar has by default. If you work different days or different hours, you really need to come in and change your working time so that as people are scheduling meetings with you, they know your availability, because it can prompt you and say that this is outside of their normal working hours. So make sure you have it set up for what it is you need. Also for me, I work with a lot of people in different time zones. So in my calendar, I have actually added multiple time zones. I have my normal central time zone. I also have Pacific and I have Eastern. So I want to be able to see different time zones so that when I'm looking at my calendar, I know what's happening in the different time zones. So just so you could see, we can now have 3 different time zones. Also, if you wanted to have your calendar include holidays, this is also where you could be adding in your holidays. So make sure that you're checking out each of these different categories on the left, making the necessary changes that are going to help you to be more automated and work more efficiently within your Outlook. And on the left-hand side, you have people. By default, it will look for duplicates, which is a fantastic thing, because if you go to add a new contact and they're already in your contacts, it will let you know, and it can merge the information together and not have a duplicate contact. I like having that available. That's a nice feature. But we also have the advanced category on the left-hand side. This is where you could actually be changing the folder you get when you come into Outlook. By default, we are coming into Outlook seeing the inbox. But if you want to come into Outlook and see a different folder, whether it's your calendar, it's your to-dos, it's a specific folder, your deleted items, whatever, you simply click Browse, choose the folder that you want it to open to. And by the way, Outlook calls everything a folder. Calendars are folders, contacts are folders, everything is a folder. So choose whatever you want to have the startup be. Also, you can check empty deleted items folder when you exit Outlook. So when I brought that topic up earlier, this is where you could set that. So every time you exit Outlook, it will automatically empty your deleted items folder. So highly recommend making some adjustments to these properties based on yourself, not your coworkers, not the default settings. Change it for you personally, especially those work days. So what do you work? What are your work hours? That's the number one thing that I would like you to make sure is set up. That is such a huge time saver. Now, of course, if you make any changes, make sure you click OK. I'm just going to click cancel because I didn't necessarily make any changes. And then the last thing that I want to mention, which is connected directly with Microsoft Teams as well. So during a Teams session, we could talk a little bit more about this feature. But from your file menu, you do have access to your automatic replies. If this is something that you've been using in the past, you're familiar with when you're going to be gone, you can turn this on. You can set it up to automatically be turned on and turned off for when you're going to be out of the office. So only send during this time range. You can choose what date to start, what time. So if I'm leaving on Friday and I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I can have it automatically turn on. Then I tell it the date I want it to stop. So I want it to stop on Sunday at 6 p.m. But there's 2 different tabs inside your organization versus outside your organization. I don't want the outside of my organization people to know where I am or what I'm doing. So I literally give two different messages. The computer knows if they're part of your domain. They can get one message. I can let them know I'm on vacation. If you need anything, call Brenda at extension 123. But if it's outside of my organization, do I want this automatic reply to go to everybody that sends me a message? Or do I want to limit it just to the people that are in my contacts? Because not everybody needs to know I'm gone. So you can choose that and have a different message. You might want to have a message that says, I'm currently unavailable until this day. If you need immediate assistance, please call 1-800 blah, 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 whatever it is that you need to put in there. Totally different message from people inside your organization. So something to think about using inside versus outside. Now, of course, if you click OK, let's say that it started on Friday. It was supposed to turn off on Wednesday, the following Wednesday when you come back. What if you come back early? If you log back into your computer, it will give you a message across the top letting you know that your out of office assistant is turned on, just so you know. You could turn it off from there or keep it on because maybe you were just checking your messages, just so you're aware of that. Okay. So that was our topics today on Outlook Beyond the Basics. Alan, did we have anybody with any questions that we can answer for them today?
Yeah, we did, Jolynn. We had a couple
Good.
questions, and I believe Kat just shared the link to that quick poll. So while we're doing that, if
Good.
people don't mind filling that out, that would be super helpful. So we had two people actually ask the same question about quick parts, and
Yes.
they're Mac users apparently, and I guess quick parts for the Mac has not existed. And
No.
so they're wondering about time frame. If you know anything about that, I Googled it a little bit and couldn't find anything.
Did you just say Google?
I did, yeah. I said Google.
That G word.
I know.
I have not found anything to state that they plan on giving that feature to Mac users. I'm so sorry. I don't know that if that's in the future or not for Microsoft. Because it is such a great feature.
Yep. Yeah, that was a new one for me. It's definitely a great feature. And so another one on rules. So the question is there a way to include messages you have sent with those same rule settings? Example, if I am replying on a chain that the rule is set with specific words in the subject, only new messages coming seem to go into that folder. I would like my responses in that folder as well.
So when you create the rule, you can actually tell it. So let me jump back in here just real quick. Oops, sorry, wrong feature. Manage rules. When you come into the rule, the last part of it is actually asking you, because I'm missing some information and won't let me jump to the end, but at the very end, it's going to ask you if you want to apply this for all new messages that come in from this time, or do you want it to go back to the existing messages that are in that folder? So if I say from this specific person, so let me just quick create one here, and I say I want it to go to this folder, and I click next. Once I get here to the end, it says turn on this rule, which is going to start right now, but I can actually say run this rule now on messages already in the inbox or whichever folder you're referring to. So it can be turned on for existing messages that way. Okay.
Okay. And that was it for questions. So let's just give folks a little heads up about what we have coming up here. So digital transformation series, we've got a proactive strategies for cyber resilience coming up at the end of this month. And then Microsoft Planner is going to be part of our learning series here in July. So I know a lot of folks may not be familiar with Planner, so it could be a good session for you to sort of learn what the capabilities are. That's really an intro session, so we don't expect you to have any prior knowledge of Planner going into that. All right, what's on our next slide here, Jolynn? All right, I guess that is it, and appreciate everybody being here, and I guess we'll see you all next time.
Sounds good. Thanks everyone. Bye.